Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to your Monday night Talking Town Extra Time. I am your host, the Gov, here to break down a little bit more of the 1-0 away defeat at Wycombe. Hopefully, be joined by those that couldn't get on to yesterday's show. If they're around, they're available. The link will be being put forward very soon. I've got two new contributors, two new voices, two new opinions, and of course, we'll shift gears a little bit and look at Oxford Boxing Day because this is the last show before Christmas. This is hence the Christmas jumper, but this is the last one before before we play Oxford on Boxing Day. We'll of course be there at the game on Boxing Day at the Sir Alf Ramsey statue. So if you're one of many, and I do mean many, Town fans that are attending Boxing Day, do stop by and say hello. Please, it would be incredibly nice to see you all and share a festive smile. But how are we feeling now? How are we all on this Monday? How are our Monday thoughts following the Saturday performance this week? A disappointing one. We know Sundays can be up here when we win and down there when we lose. And Mondays will be bringing it all back down to a modicum of sensibility, I'll say. And then we'll see where we go from there. Nick Muller's in the room. Welcome in. Wazza says, a good afternoon. Rob Holmes, evening all. I see Dara's already played down reports today, linking us to JCH. No smoke without fire. Howdy all, says Woody. How confident are we for a home game Boxing Day? It's already got a 0-0 all over it, to be fair, Woody. Oxford doing everything except Oxford just draw. Let's be honest. But we'll see. We'll see how we go. Lots of you filing in. Link request already being made. Love to see that. Let's get cracking then with our first contributor.
The Peaky one, Mark Tuxford.
Well, I mean, I try and be positive. I try and look at it from that kind of outlook a lot of the time.
You try and be positive. Be positive on Saturday because you were in the terraces, freezing cold. Be positive.
Yeah, I mean that's putting it lightly. I think. Freeze me bollocks off. Just disappointing, really, wasn't it? I think I was really excited to obviously go to my first away game this season, so I was really excited to go. And I think Wycombe's always been a bit of a tough one for us. We're a little bit of a bogey side, but we've been there before, thumped them pretty much anyway. The last time we went, and I think it was disappointing all round, really, because I think the energy wasn't there. We just looked a bit lackluster. We can't find our cutting edge at the moment. I said to you, got your boys in the green room that, there's probably about 3 or 4 games that I can sort of pick off in the last 7 or 8 games, really, where, a team has come to Portman Road or we've been there and they've had one chance on goal and scored. So I don't understand why we can't be quite as cutting edge and, having that one shot and scoring and taking our chances when we need to, because we have a lot of chances in a game with a lot of possession, but just can't find that cutting edge. So for me, there has to be something happening in January. And, is that going to be a strike? Everyone wants a 20-goal season striker, but there has to be something coming through that door to get us over the edge, get us over the line in January for hopefully what will be a successful end to, the campaign, really.
Did the lack of energy surprise you?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, there's lots of football been played recently, and I suppose early kickoffs don't help as well. And I think the team bus was actually quite late to the ground, if I'm honest, when we was watching it come through on Saturday. So I don't know if that was something to do with it. The preparation wasn't there or whatever. But watching them train on the pitch, firstly, I don't know if anyone else saw it, but it just didn't seem to be quite as up for it. I don't know why, whether it's just because it was absolutely Baltic, I don't know, but it really was cold. I don't know whether that had something to do with it, but there's no energy there for me. It didn't look like a Kieran McKenna side. And more importantly, it's more about the closing down. So when you're closing down people, that didn't seem to be there like in previous games. McKenna's teams always set up to close down players, the opposition. It just off it. And I know, every team's allowed an off day and stuff like that. But if I'm honest, I think in the last sort of 5 or 6 games, have we really played that well? And it does worry me a little bit coming into what is quite an important time in the season.
Okay, perfect. Right. pause there before we bring in our contributor. I've got a couple of Monday items I want to bring to the party. I want to get your opinion on, please. Tux, you're a man that sees a lot of football. It's a couple of penalty shouts that I want to put to you. Penalty or no penalty? This one comes courtesy of Grassroot Goals on Twitter. Here is the clip. I'm going to press play, and I want you to tell me whether you think this is a penalty or no penalty in your well-travelled journalistic opinion. Is that a penalty or is that a no penalty to you, Mr. Tuxford?
I think that's a penalty, personally. He's got the ball there, isn't he? The keeper's got the ball there. So, for me, he goes for the ball, doesn't he? He's not really going for the man. So, yeah, it wouldn't be a penalty for you. Yeah.
So if it's not a penalty for you, is it a free kick on the goalkeeper? Is it that bad? Because you could have a foul there, sure, if it's in one direction, right? Or a direction.
Yes, I suppose. I mean, the keeper's entitled to come and get that ball, but also the player, the striker, is entitled to come and get that as well, or go for the header. So I think for me, it wouldn't be a penalty, but yeah, it would probably be free kick to the goalkeeper, wouldn't it? I suppose.
All right. Second one comes from the same place. Bear with me while I just load it up. Again, I want your opinion on it. Is it a penalty or is it no penalty? Right. This one. Here we go. I'm not. I don't have to see this on myself properly yet.
It's getting dirty now, isn't it? No, don't dive in. Oh no.
Is that a penalty or is that not a penalty? Is that a penalty or is it no penalty? What is your opinion? What is the live chat's opinion? That one's a little bit more. Oh, I don't know.
I think on first reflection, I would have probably said that was outside the box, but looking back on it, maybe it is inside. Certainly a foul.
It is a foul. Is it a foul? Or is it just too strong for him?
Yeah, I think he sort of pushes him down a little bit, but he's obviously gone down quite easy as well. So I don't know, to be honest. It's a bit of a difficult one, that one.
So with what we have learned, I guess, is that we wouldn't make qualified referees.
Designer, George Nunn.
I wouldn't be surprised either way.
One was a penalty all day long.
The second one's a penalty. Did you think so?
Which was a wrestling move, isn't it? It was bonkers.
Well, yeah. Sidewalk slam.
First one, I wouldn't have given anything for that unless the keeper looked like he was injured, and then I'd have given a dead ball.
Wow. Okay, so first one, no penalty.
That was a fair 50-50. There's too many of them given. Just because both players ended up on the floor, give it anywhere else on the pitch, he'd played on then.
Was the Harry Kane one in England-France a penalty for you then, George? As you're clearly on the money here, was that a penalty?
It's so long ago, I can't even bloody remember.
I can't
remember how outraged I was, to be honest with you. My interest in the World Cup dwindled shortly after that.
Me too.
I'm pretty sure I thought at the time it was a penalty. Yeah.
Fair enough. Right. Tuck said 5 out of the last 6 haven't been great. How have you seen Town Saturday and over previous weeks? I know before we started, you were saying it could have been that any number of times, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was at Portland Road for the last 2 as well, and any one of those games feels like it could have ended up 1-0 to them, 0-0, 1-0, 1-0 to us, and all of our games feel like they're kind of going in that direction at the moment. And there's an element of I think physicality in terms of like energy, as Tuck says. There's a element of mental tiredness, I think. We may come back to that, and and obviously there's the pinnacle finishing that we've really been lacking consistently for decades, but this season it's kind of the missing link, really, isn't it?
Yeah, tiredness, no lack of energy. You just mentioned tiredness there. Are we a tired side?
We look mentally tired to me. Because we look more sort of shaky in that last 15-20 minutes than I've seen us for a long time. That's how it kind of reminds me of the old days when I say old days, wasn't that long ago, I guess, but the days where we 1-0 never felt like or looked like it was going to be enough, because we just suddenly looked terrified of holding on to it. And I don't think we're quite there yet. It doesn't feel like I wasn't sitting in the stands thinking, oh God, here we go. But we're not a million miles away.
A great question from Darren here for you two gentlemen. How many players do you think are playing out of form?
Good question. I
Cheers, Darren.
I mean, if you look through the team at the moment and you think that like the spine of the team has been the most consistent over McKenna's year in charge, really, right? And you know, Walton's always been pretty consistent, but I would probably say he's looked a little bit sort of edgy in recent games. Not that I would drop him, definitely no, but he has looked, you know, somewhat different. And then you've kind of, I mean, this is the thing with McKenna. There's a lot of chopping and changing. You know, rightfully when it goes right, wrongfully when it goes wrong. But you know, how much does that have an effect on the players? Because I'd look at someone like the Dapo, right, and you know, it was only a couple of weeks ago where he was scoring a lot of goals, but all of a sudden he finds himself out of the team, whether that's tactically or you know whatever it might be behind the scenes. He's a typical player. He's literally the scapegoat of this team right now. Where you know if we're not having the chance to score, it falls on him because he's the striker. But for me, it does come down to that consistency, and I think we might have a little bit of an effect from that. And Dapo is a main one for that. So I don't know. I mean, if you look at I think across that spine, I would probably say Ladapo's sort of out of form at the moment. Chaplin's out of form at the moment. Morsey, I think, has a solid game, but then there's a certain, I can't remember what recent game it was, but it was certainly important where it didn't have his best game at all. And you know, you never have your best game every week, but it is sort of showing that like there's certain players like a Chaplin who's literally meant to be basically the number 10 of this side at the moment. He's not been on song all the time. I know he scored 2 against Peterborough last week, but honestly, Saturday was awful. Didn't look like the sort of player that we know. So yeah, I was surprised.
Obviously, you mentioned Chaplin being out of form. As Bill just said, he got 2 against Posh, which is a fair comment. He did. Yeah. Is it then, George, more of a case of there's too much pressure on a select few shoulders? Because, you know, I said yesterday, when Chaplin doesn't score, we don't score.
I think there's a change. There's been a change in terms of the chopping and changing that McKenna does, which is that it's enforced. Over the last sort of 2-3 months, it's become much more enforced. And I've never thought about this before, but as Mark was talking now, I wonder whether the lack of competition for places has an impact if you don't manage it. In terms of right up until recently, pretty much everyone on the pitch had a degree of, you have a shit game, someone's breathing down your neck, and they will play next week. Whereas now, there's less of that right across the park because everyone's injured. So Ladapo can have a shit game. I'm not saying I just picked his name out of thin air, but there's not that much. What do we do if he does? Like, we need someone to play up there who's going to like. So whether that changes motivationally, that changes the mindset of players. I don't know, but I wouldn't put it. I wouldn't say it was out of the question. And I do wonder whether it's just having a bit of an impact in that there's a lack of need to play well. It's buried back there somewhere in their brains because their position is safe in a lot of instances.
Kiel mentions an out of form player, Burns. There, George. This is not the Wes Burns we were used to seeing last year, is it?
Well, that's it. I think, and it's similar with. I'd put him in a similar bracket to Chapman actually, which is that I think we've seen, particularly last year for Burns, we saw flashes of greatness. Obviously, he had an absolutely phenomenal season last year, and this, and as with Chapman, we talked about it before. I think it just hasn't, and you can't expect him to maintain that for 2 seasons consistently, of course. And I don't think Burns has been bad, and I don't really think. I didn't see the full game on Saturday, so I can't comment too much on Chappers. But I don't think he's been bad. He's looked lacking in confidence, as we talked about before. Again, but I think Burns just isn't turning it on for whatever reason. His partnership with Donatian doesn't quite look as strong as it was last season, and whether that's a change in formation or tactics, whatever it is that's just not allowing it to kind of flow as well as it did, or because we're also going down the left an awful lot, maybe it's just not, we're not noticing it, or it's harder to see when it does come off. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, he's certainly not in the form that we saw him in last season.
I think the thing with Wes Burns is he's a marked man now, though, isn't he? Like, everyone knows what he did last year. He's still got the ability to reproduce that form. Obviously not as good, because that really was a purple patch season for him. But he's a marked man now, so obviously people know, or teams know, what he's going to do. But that shouldn't be an excuse. He should be still playing to a good standard. And I think, excuse me, Wycombe was a game where I don't actually think he was given the opportunity, so to speak. I think there was certain players like Leif Davis where he didn't have his best game, because I think there was players in front of him, and Jackson was playing on that side. And I think when you have those kind of two wingers above your fullbacks, it just doesn't actually make any sense, because your wing backs aren't getting forward. Then they're essentially kind of part of a 5-man defence. So that team that McKenna put out on Saturday was a weird one for me. And then you've got to look at someone like Keogh coming into the side, and Keogh loves the club, and a great ambassador for kind of sort of football for Derby and things like that. But I don't think he was the answer to start. And I know Edmondson's had his injury problems and stuff like that, but to pull him off at half time, I thought was quite telling. And when Edmondson came on, I actually thought he's probably one of our better players on the day, because he actually steamrolled forward. He kind of put that, he had that kind of Wolfend in him in that game. And we've seen it happen before where he's got forward and he scored. So, yeah, I just feel like that we don't quite know what we're doing at the moment in terms of the team selection, and then some of that's been injuries. I think I sort of feel a bit sorry for Cameron Humphreys at the moment, because again, he didn't really have his best game on Saturday, but he's played a lot of football. You've got to remember he's a young lad. And I think these players are coming in and trying to sort of fill a hole at the moment. And, we have to, as I said right at the top of the show, we have to really seriously look at our squad in January, with or without injuries. We have to look at this squad to try and have others come in and just get us over the line, really.
Trigger Lee, most of the team 6 out of 10 and 5 out of 10, whereas we were getting 7 or 8 dropping standard right across, although Morsey normally 7 and 8 every week. Daniel, Wes Burns has been underwhelming. I know we don't rely on him as much as last season, but he's been very quiet recently. Mike D is touch clambering for the return of El Miz.
Christ. Dear God, no.
That's a no then. Yeah, that's a no. Darren Sutton, managers are fully aware of standout players, hence keep Burns out of the game. We can only play up front. We don't change the tactic. Dino, Tux still didn't take any player on when he could have until this 82nd minute, which is a fair point. He has been a sort of different player this year. George, Darren's comment there about the change of tactics. Many people on yesterday's show, no plan B, not just yesterday, but of course for several weeks now. There's no plan B or even a plan. It's just plan A, but do it better. We've heard that before. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think McKenna necessarily works by sort of plan A, plan B. That's why it's always frustrating trying to do these starting 11s for you, because I don't know what formation to put them in, because it changes every time.
No one does.
I think that I don't think the plan A, plan B thing is just a McCarthyism, isn't it? It's the rope we hung him by, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think for whatever reason we're not getting it right at the moment. I think I'm going to hold my tongue slightly until after January, because I think we have just been pestered. I'm not going to say ravaged, because they're not too long term, most of them, but we've been pestered by injuries over the last couple of months, and I don't think we're dealing with that. Maybe not necessarily as well as we could, but possibly given the squad depth. I think that the squad is being shown up a little bit, particularly up front. And I know we went through most of the summer saying we were looking really deep in central defence, but we're probably, with the form of those that aren't playing constantly, we're probably one short. I think we'll be busy in January. I'd be very surprised if we're not pretty busy in January for a January. I don't know what our busiest January has been recently. How many?
What are you expecting?
I haven't given it that much thought actually, but I reckon at least
numbers?
3.
3.
Which I think for a January for a League One team is pretty busy, and I'm not sure that they'll be just necessarily, well, hopefully not panic signings or easy.
The trouble is that it doesn't actually need to be like loads of changes to this team. It just needs to have like a bit of finesse to it. And January is a bit of an odd time to buy players or loan players anyway. You're not going to get your number one target, I don't think. So unless they become available because they're out of form and they're not playing for their side, like maybe a George Hurst or something. So, it's one of those where it's a difficult time to actually get players that you want. But I think if we're looking at kind of players coming in for potential sort of positions, I'd be saying that certainly I think we need to have a striker. I mean, you're looking at also, he was a squad player essentially, but Tyrese John Jules I think has been a big miss for us because he had a lot of pace. He gave something for us when he came on, and he scored a couple of goals. So we need that kind of player to help us along the way as well. And yeah, like George said, I think we haven't been helped by injuries, and like someone like John Jules has gone back, probably won't see him again. We've had like players like Evans, who, for me, certainly the most improved player this year, and he's been sort of ravaged by injury. So, once we get these players back, hopefully they'll be a bit better. But they need game time. That's the thing. And can we afford to give them game time and give them minutes if we're not actually producing it on the pitch? Because ultimately, it's the results that matter.
You mentioned panic signs there, George. Were there any in the summer, do you feel?
Do you?
Oh yes, I do. Yes, I do. Certainly do. Yes.
I'm gonna gently sidestep that.
I thought you might. I'll say it if you don't mind. I've said it yesterday. I'll say it again today. I think Hadley was a panic sign.
It is related, which is that I think the finesse thing is the biggest frustration from summer for me. I think was that we didn't sign that in the summer. That's a problem that we already had and we still have. And I don't think anybody really thought we'd solved that from the signings that we made over the summer. The issue is that we now have additional needs, which is to cover out of form and out of action players. But yeah, the finesse, and the problem is that everybody's going to see us coming from a million miles away, because it's no secret the fact that we didn't make that signing, and I suspect that those that need to have been are going to have been very busy over the last few months trying to sort something out. But I think I said a couple of times to people over the last few weeks when I've been at the games that we're just, for me, I just want us to get through December with as many points as we can get, based on the performances that I've seen and the injuries that we have, and then hopefully we'll be busy early-ish, as early as we can be in January, and things will start to turn. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, let's bring Jez in, because we've got Jez and Colin. Jez first. Jez, welcome in. Thanks for waiting from yesterday. Not that you've been waiting there since yesterday, but thanks for waiting from yesterday. First of all, love the jumper. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good man. You saw the World Cup last night.
Oh yeah, what a game that was.
Was it a good one? Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it very much.
Good man.
As I say, we need to get Cristiano Ronaldo in our side.
Well, he's a free agent, as you told me. I mean, maybe a slight stumbling block.
The wages, yeah.
Well, more playing Shrewsbury and Accrington Stanley. I'm not quite sure he fancies it, to be honest with you. Can he do it? Can he do it at the Wham Stadium? That's the question everyone wants to know. That's what will truly make you the GOAT.
What about Messi?
Well, he's just won the World Cup, to be fair. I mean, he can do what he likes, really, But we haven't got Messi, but we have got Carl Edwards. And Khalid asks, Edwards should be starting, or says rather, Edwards should be starting more games, especially away from home. What are your thoughts on that, Jez?
I haven't seen much of. I don't rate Edwards that much.
Okay, tell me why. What's Edwards not done enough of for you?
Putting the ball in the back of the net, for starters.
Fair enough.
If he would start bagging them in like he did when he had to run from the Orwell Bridge to get to the game.
Cambridge, the Cambridge home game where he got the brace.
Yeah. then yes, I'd have him. But since then, I haven't seen much of him.
Should he be starting more games, Tux?
I think he's better as a sort of an impact player, to be honest. I mean, there's games
Okay.
where he has started and he has been pretty decent, but I just feel like he just injects that game the game with pace. So I think if you're a defender, if you're that right back or left back, depending on what side he's playing, then you're going to be a bit fearful of him coming on because he's just going to test you for pace, basically. But I think the thing I've always said about Edwards is that he does sort of lack a little bit of end product. But I must admit, it has got better this season. It's much better in terms of getting the ball in the box from those kind of wider positions. But I think he doesn't really do it enough for me. That would be the telling thing for me.
We could
absolutely.
do with McGoldrick back. He scored a hat-trick Saturday.
Yeah.
He did. Paul P. Sellers market in January going to be forcing the Pang over the odds to get our targets. Woody, we're not alone struggling from high division. It's working for John Jules. A poacher who can't get first team games could be a shout. Yeah, not bad. Simon Harris, a Colby Bishop type striker, holds the ball up under pressure, and a player that runs and dribbles. Edwards way short at this level in the January transfer window. Trevor, we need a Waitrose strike to go over our Waitrose left back. We absolutely do, Trevor. Love that a lot. Jez, your thoughts on Saturday then before we bring Colin in? How did you see it unfold? What are your thoughts here on the Monday evening?
Well, Saturday, I left a fraction early because I was so disappointed in what went on with the referees not giving us at least one, if not two, stonewall penalties.
Were they, Tux? I must have blinked and missed those.
There was a couple of penalty shouts, mainly for handball. But again, the referee was fucking dreadful. But I mean, we say this every week, so that's not going to ever change.
We need VAR in this league.
Well, the thing is, I don't think the VAR is going to help these referees, unfortunately, because they make the decisions, and these League One referees. I'm sorry, they're absolutely dreadful. We see it game in, game out all the time. It's just for Wycombe. Excuse me. So Wycombe, it's the time wasting again, right? So they stick 10 men behind the ball, time waste. They go 1-0 up, and time waste for the rest of the game. But if I can see that, and I'm not an officiator, I'm not a referee, but I can see that, and so many other fans can see it. Why can't that be clamped out? So they're doing it in the World Cup, but they can't do it in the Premier League level or Championship, League One, League Two, whatever it might be. Why can't that be clamped out? That's what I don't understand.
I got a friend who lives near me who used to be a referee for Sunday morning, or local leagues, and he said, "Where were you sitting?" I said, "Well, behind the goal." It was, and you can see that it's offside from there, can you? I said, "Well, if other people are shouting it, then yes, I can."
Well, sometimes fans can certainly see a lot more than the officials can. You do question what they're actually looking at. Jez, are you going Boxing Day?
Yes.
Good man. How are you getting there? Because there's no trains or buses, is there?
I'm stopping around my pet mum's.
Oh, nice. Cool. So you're in Ipswich. You'll be in Ipswich, will you?
Yes.
Good stuff. We'll see you Boxing Day then, Jez.
Yes. Happy Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
And Happy New Year too.
Well, I'll see you before then, Jez.
Oh, yes.
Be sure of that. But a Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for stopping by. George, time wasting. I can hear Rich in my ear at the moment saying, we've got to do more to take it out of the referee's hands in terms of we can't keep saying the referee is to blame.
No, of course the referee's to blame. He's policing the game. It won't get fixed until referees start punishing the way that they should, which is dishing out yellow cards. Never mind adding 45 years of injury time, because teams just keep wasting time during injury time, and wasted time during injury time does not get added on minute for minute. It just doesn't. And teams know that. So you can waste 10 minutes of time. If you get 10 minutes added on at the end, you can waste 5 of that and it will be 5 minutes of injury time. That's just how it works. They have to start dishing out proper punishments for it. and whoever it is, whether that's us or other teams, and it won't stop until players start getting sent off for it, in terms of getting yellow cards. And the problem is at the moment is that referees are too scared to do it because they don't want to be the ref that keeps sending players off for yellow cardable offences, which is ridiculous. It's the same. Yeah. It's always been the same, but it's showing up more at this level. And I don't know whether that's because a load of referees have been moved up a grade because obviously they need more referees at VAR level now because one sits in a room and watches TV for the whole game. So it's just diluted the quality of referees all the way down. And Tux is right. I don't think a VAR would help at this level, even if they were going to do it, because all of the good referees from League One will move up to Championship to be their VAR, 4th, 5th official, whatever they are. And we'll just get the dregs from bloody hell, League Two in the National League. It'll just be, it's just not going to work until A, referees are trained better and held accountable for how bad they are more, and or they start dishing out yellow cards and sending players off for yellow cardable offences. Like, it is in the rules now. You waste time, you get booked. Book them. Yeah. Doesn't matter if they've just scored. Doesn't matter if they've just bent your ear off about something. Doesn't matter if you've done it 2 minutes ago because they were doing it then too. That's the rules. Send them off. They'll soon stop. There's not a referee in the land that wants to be that referee that wakes up on the Sunday morning with their face all over the papers. The man that sent 3 players off due to time wasting. Is this the football we want? Because it impacts the result, or it hurts in a cup final, or it doesn't matter.
I hear you both. I agree with you both.
The ref hasn't hurt that result. The player has hurt the result, and that's the problem.
But that's not how the job is
doing. As long as you can hold yourself up and say, "Look, here's what I am held accountable for. It says in these rules that if you waste time, I will book you." I booked him. He was wasting time. If you want to argue whether he was wasting time or not, let's watch it back. And I'm pretty confident. It's the same with any decision. It's that they're held accountable for penalties. They're held accountable for.
I agree.
This, that, and the other.
It's all in the rule book. I mean, you look at when you look at a goalkeeper. So they're prominent for wasting time because they hold the ball for too long, right? So the goalkeeper is meant to hold the ball for 6 seconds. That's how long he's allowed to hold it for. So if that's over by at least 10 seconds, why is there not a card there then?
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, Walton does it too. Like we waste time too, and I'm advocating it happening across the board. But someone will need to wake up in the morning and see their names all over the paper. But with any luck, it'll be a decent paper, and the paper will say, "Good on them."
They won't. But they won't.
But the thing is, it shouldn't be up to a referee. It should be from whoever's in charge of looking after these referees. Basically, it should be from that point. It should be saying, right, there's a lot of time wasting, especially in the low leagues. It happens in the Premier League anyway. But they know it because they've done what they've done in the World Cup, where they've added minutes on. So they know it's happening, but they just don't want to address it. Yeah, they just don't want to address it.
It won't solve the problem because you're not punishing the right thing.
No. But whenever I see a referee, and we're going to see it on Boxing Day, because Time Waste City are coming to town, and they're already, time wasting before we've left their own living rooms. Most of them, I'm sure of it. Obviously it's a joke, but they are synonymous for it. Every time I've seen it at Portman Road, certainly. But whenever I see a referee book a player for it, I always think that's just like me telling my 2-year-old, if you don't stop doing that, you're not having any dinner. Absolutely pointless, because I've got to feed him, right? So he's giving dinner, whether he carries on or not. So because I've booked you,
that's why it's not the same.
Do you know what I mean?
You can't hold food over someone as a punishment.
It depends when that card is coming in that game, though. Like if you've got a referee that's really hot on it from in the first half, potentially, if they're time wasting in the first half, then great. But if you're going to book someone in the 89th minute, that's their first booking that they receive for time wasting. They've done it literally 3 or 4 times before that, and the referee's had a word with them. Then what the fuck does a yellow card do in the 89th minute? Nothing.
No,
you've won the game then.
Who gains from 10 minutes of injury time in a game? Yeah. The team that's time wasted or the team that's being time wasted on? Neither of them, because both of them have got just as much of an opportunity to change the path of that game in that 10 minutes. That it's not a punishment. The only way is to punish the team that is committing the time wasting. If they time waste twice in the first half, send them off. It doesn't matter. And this already happens. I've just booked him, so I can't book him again. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, who cares if it spoils the fucking game for the fans? Like, it's not the ref's fault. It's not the fans' fault. It's not anyone else on the pitch's fault apart from the douchebag that's time wasting.
It's the same as if you make a foul in the middle of the park, right? In the first half, that's not a yellow card offence, but in the second half, it is. So that I don't understand. So there's so many rules.
Fouls in the box and fouls outside of the box and fouls on the goalkeeper and fouls on anyone else on the pitch. What absolute nonsense! That's why that Sunday league game, or whatever it was. Apologies if it was higher level than that.
No, it was Sunday.
Anywhere else on the pitch, the ref would have gone, get up.
Yeah, right. You're spot on. Saj, if you take,
as far as I know, there's no rule that says if the keeper falls over, then the game stops. Like, it has to be either a penalty or a free kick. It's nonsense.
Saj, if you take our chance and none of the other stuff matters, time wasting and crappy refs, we need to be more clinical in the final third. Irv, who's our referee, says can't keep blaming the ref. We need to win games. We're dominating by putting the ball in. We're dominating by putting the ball in the onion bag. Max facts: if players go down, it requires treatment minimum 5 minutes off the pitch. Solve the problem. Either need to be subbed or they play with 10 men. I mean, that's a fairly.
I'm not against the sin bin being introduced in football. I'd rather that than extra injury time.
As soon as the player intentionally knocks the ball away, he should be yellow carded. It would soon stop. Whereas Craig says we'll never see a keeper sent off for time wasting guys. Trevor, if a player goes down holding his head, how do you prove he's faking? Of course, absolutely. Flipped on door. Slowing the game down by players' actions is just part of the game. It's quite a synergy. We're talking about time wasting ahead of Oxford. This is like a peek into the future, my friends. Colin, thank you for waiting. I think you're holding on. How are you, sir?
All right, mate. How are you, Tux? You all right, George?
Good, mate. Good.
How are you, Gov? All right, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. How's that book coming along? We nearly finished it?
Yeah, it's good. It's getting the old final little touches there, mate. It's yeah, we're nearly there, mate. We're nearly there.
Good man.
Yeah,
so
brilliant.
Wycombe on Saturday. And, you were like Tux. You braved the elements. You braved the cold, and you were left disappointed. What are your thoughts as we sit here on a Monday night then about Wycombe? Break it down for us. The way the goat can.
Well, to be honest with you, Gov, I mean, I thought at times, and I think Tux would probably agree with this. I thought at times, especially like when Chapman should have scored, obviously, but just prior to that, I'll tell you what, we played some good stuff at times. I'll tell you what, if Chapman had put that in, arguably, apart from maybe John Jules at Shrewsbury, I'd say that'd probably be going down as one of our goals of the season if it had finished it. So all in all, I think we played some decent stuff at times. We're just looking a little bit powder puff, in front of goal, obviously. But I do agree with what Mike G put up on the chat a little while ago. I think we're desperately needing, somebody. Obviously, we're needing a striker. There's no doubt about that. But I agree with Mike D. About the number 10 situation. We needed somebody who can see that pass, and get people in, kind of thing. But I do agree with Tux. I thought we looked a little bit leggy, if you like, on Saturday. And also, I did agree with the fact. I mean, look, freezing cold temperatures really shouldn't make any difference whatsoever. They're fit. They're really, really fit athletes these days. Well, at least they should do. They warm up, better than ever done in history, these players today. So there's no real excuses there. I just think, like Plymouth are to a certain extent, I think we're just going through one of those patches. And, like I keep trying to say, we're still second. We're only 2 points behind Plymouth. And like everybody has said, really, and everybody and their brother has said, if it had been given this position, I try and be positive all of the time. If we'd have been given this position at the last week in July, we'd have absolutely snapped everybody's arms off. Now, should we be in a slightly better position? Yes, absolutely so. I'm not going to lie. I think really, I speak to Rich quite a bit, as God knows, and I think realistically, I think if you look at it as a whole, when you take into account the Sheffield Wednesday game and Charlton game, the Barnsley game, and those kind of games, and maybe even Plymouth away, to be fair, I think we could and should have been at this particular time. We probably should have been at least 6 points clear, and that's not an exaggeration, because we certainly should have won at Sheffield Wednesday. We should have won at Cheltenham. We could have got at least a point at Plymouth, and we should have beat Barnsley. And Gov was spot on yesterday, when he said, somebody talked about the Barnsley game. He said, if the goal had been allowed, it had been 3-1. I think it was about 5-10 minutes to go, and that game would have been absolutely done and dusted. So 6 points in front, something like that, with Beans with 2 points behind, would probably be about right. But like I say, on the back of that, yeah, we're lacking a little bit. I mean, Leaf had arguably, because I love Leaf Davis. Leaf had, for me, I'm sorry to say it, probably a 5 out of 10 game on Saturday. Wes had, arguably, one of his more disappointing games, let's put it that way. But these boys will all bounce back. Wes will bounce back. Leaf will certainly bounce back. Chappers will bounce back. And if we get into January in the position we're in right now, or maybe just a bit better, because I think it might be a bit better after Boxing Day, if I'm honest. If we can get into that January period, no worse or a little bit better than we are now, like I said in the chat earlier on, come January, I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. I'm not changing from the first place. I think we're more than capable, and especially with our back and our marvellous owners, our marvellous CEO, our marvellous manager, and a very good squad. We'll be okay. We're in stormy waters at the moment, Gov. We've just got to ride it, haven't we? Got to ride it.
We are sailing. What a tune, Colin! I take it. George, if you'd been offered second place in August, but if I also told you you'd lose to Lincoln, drop points to Cheltenham, Fleetwood, and get beat 1-0 away at Wycombe, would you have been happy with second place, or would you have said, look, second's great, but that's what I expect to be come December the 30th, December the 20th, December the 19th, even?
No, I'd probably have taken it. I think it sets us up. With no context at all, I think I would be. And if you said second and only a couple of points adrift of top, I think I'd have taken it and just said, well, it sets us up for the rest of the season, right? I think that the issue is the thing that we all have, which is hindsight for all of these points that we've dropped, as far as we're concerned. So it is. I think it's disappointing given all of that. But yeah, absolutely, Colin's right in both of his points, which is that I think in an ideal world, if all of those results had gone our way, we'd be at least 6 points clear. But with hindsight, it's a
wonderful thing. Absolutely. Colin, are you confident for Boxing Day before I let you go?
Oxford, the answer to that is I totally agree with what you said earlier on. Oxford are the kind of side that we all know what they're going to do from second one, not minute one. But I think it's time that they had their little bums smacked, and if we all turn up and get behind the boys, I know Rich says big crowds don't win games, but they help. And
not Ipswich, they don't, by the look of it.
Well, I know what you're saying, Gov. Yeah, but to answer your question, decent sized crowd, the boys buzzing, and let's just hope for 3 points, and if Plymouth draw, we'll be back on top of the tree. But just a final word, Gov. I just like to say to George and Tux, if you can, pass the word round about the book, because like I said before, I'm not taking a halfpenny out of this. This is all for It's all going to be for the Heart Foundation and all going to be for cancer research, 50% each. And the more I sell, the more people we help. And I can't underline that more every time. I know I'm sounding like a bit of a parrot, but I just want to help as many people. Even if I help 1 or 2 people, that's fine. But if I help 100 people, that's brilliant. And I just want to do my bit because they helped me big time 3 years ago, and I just want to do as best as I can. Everybody is. So if everybody can help and support me and pass the message on, it'll be out hopefully January, February, and I just want just a little bit of help from everybody, and we can help other people.
Spot on. Colin, we love you and we appreciate you. You look after yourself, all right? Enjoy the rest of your evening. Whenever someone says the Heart Foundation, I just think of Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. My mind just goes straight to the pink and black of the Heart Foundation of World Wrestling Federation. Leif Davis, he is the man with our most assists. Didn't play well Saturday. Did he put the conversation about Greg Lee coming into bed Saturday, Tux? Because when Leif Davis don't create chances, we don't score. And when we don't score, we don't win. So if you take Leif Davis out, you're not creating anything. Do you see the paradox here?
I mean, it's very rare where Davis doesn't, he has a good game normally for me, right?
We should do £1.5 million, Tux.
Yeah, but I mean, on average, he always has a good game. He near enough has an exit game pretty much every week. So I think it's unfair to really sort of judge him or, question his place in the team based on Saturday's performance.
Many do, not on Saturday, but I mean, every week I sit here and I must see it at least 4, 5, 6, 7, probably more comments about, Greg Lee coming in this weekend. Got to play Greg Lee this weekend. But he's got 6 assists as Davis.
Yeah.
He leads it by a way.
Yeah, well, I think for me, basing it on Wycombe, I think there was a player in front of him the whole game, so it didn't allow him to go forward. So his path was cut, basically. So I didn't understand that kind of McKenna kind of tactic, if you like. But I think he'll play on Saturday, and I think he'll hopefully get an assist and play well. But I think Wycombe was just that he had that man in front of him, which didn't allow him to go forward, because we know how dangerous he is going forward. But he's also very good defensively. So if you're blocking that path, you're playing a winger in front of him. Again, it just doesn't allow your wing back to go forward. So you're blocking his path.
Elliot, George, what we need is a big athletic forward who can play the number 9 role whilst also doing the number 10 role. How many of those type of players are in and around League One?
That's fair.
Yeah.
Or just a number 10 who can play in the number 10 role and a big athletic dynamic striker who can play the number 9 role. It's going to be super interesting to see who we bring in January. But
Charlie Austin.
We need to find someone's to come in and try and sort that finessing out up front, right?
Mike's been asking this in the chat for a couple of times, so apologies I didn't get to it sooner. Ask the lads, who would you let go in the January window? Who would you let go? I know who he wants you to say you'd let go, so don't say that name under any circumstances.
I don't know who he wants us to say. So.
Starts with a K, ends in an N.
Okay. I don't think I've let
never gone anywhere, Mike. All right, you hear me? Never.
I don't think I've let anyone go.
Because isn't it dependent on who you bring in, though?
I don't know. I'm asking you. You're not asking me.
I'm asking you. Go on.
I'm the host, mate. I just direct the questions to you two.
We're not in the
back on me.
We're not in the old we need to sell to buy.
No, but Hadme's out on loan. He's gone out on loan. Hadme's already departed out on loan in my world.
Right.
Because he needs game time and he's not, for me, good enough.
I don't think we've seen enough of him to know whether he's good enough or not. Have we? But
no. Yeah, the lack of minutes also speaks volumes to me.
Yeah.
Whether he can't stay fit, whether he's not up to the stand, whatever it might be, whichever, put your own opinion into it. It just, like Saturday, for example, you're chasing a goal. Would you have given him 9 minutes or long? Like if you had, I don't know. I'm not
the sort of player that looks like he's going to make a massive impact in 9 minutes.
To be fair, unless your name's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I think you're going to struggle to make an impact at any point. You know what I mean? Like
the issue is that it's such a tricky window, right? Is for in and out, because we don't know where we're going to be in the summer. So it's tricky for us to bring in the quality of players that we want, would want, as and when we get into the Championship. We don't want to release too many people that we might want. Let's hope we don't end up in League One again. But it's just a difficult window. Like, how do you encourage people to come in on that promise that we are going to do everything in our power to go up? Because that's how we got most of our squad last summer, and that didn't turn out particularly well for some of those guys. And I'm sure that they're loving every second of being at Ipswich in League One for another year. But like that's not the promise that they were kind of sold. And don't get me wrong, it falls firmly on their shoulders that we're not in the Championship. But I think it's a really tough window. I wouldn't necessarily be looking to offload anyone permanently at this point, because I don't think we need to. It's not a necessity. We've got so many injuries at the moment that the squad looks thin, even though on paper it's relatively big or big enough. I don't think that it's not crossed my mind that we would be getting rid of anyone in January. Not to say that we won't, but I don't think there's any need to. So it wouldn't surprise me if we don't.
Ashton brought in a player from France, from Bristol City, a big, powerful 9. Maybe we look abroad finally. Possibility, Tux?
Well, I mean, it's got to be the right player, though, isn't it? It's got to be the right player that's going to fit in with this team.
Would an Ecuadorian hit the ground running in January, Tux? That's the question I'm asking you here. Would a Peruvian? Would a Colombian? Because Brexit means European.
In this weather? In this weather?
Exactly. At the Wham in his gloves. I mean, come on.
I think it's going to be a solid no, isn't it?
Just go for Charlie Austin. But no, in all seriousness, because Brexit has made European targets that little bit more trickier. So, I mean, we saw that lot up the road going for a South American player. So I joke about different countries and whatnot, but that may be the area, may not be the area. Maybe a Greek. I am learning Greek. That would be I could be the translator. That'd be great. That'd be awesome. But are any European players, any continental players, any South American players, are they able to hit the ground running in January when it's a pivotal moment?
I think it depends how much experience they've had of English leagues before, because they might have played here before, done all right, come on loan, a bit like Selena. He's come on loan, gone back or whatever. So, if you've got that type of player, yeah, but I think it's always a bit of a risk, especially if you want them to come straight into the first team, as you say, hit the ground running. So I think no. I think that's more of a kind of a summer target for me, if I'm honest. But there's no reason why we can't look at that market. I don't think we've ever really tapped into that, especially under Evans. So it'd be a good market to tap into. But I think, as we keep saying, January's a difficult time to buy. I'll be looking, to be honest, like at kind of the League Two players, the best players in those leagues that are on form, that want to, come up to this potential league and go further. Or you look at kind of the Championship, the bottom end of it. So, yeah, that's what I'll be looking at.
I thought you were going to say the name there. I thought you were just gearing up for that sucker punch. I didn't see it coming.
I think he's too good for us now, Ryan, so...
No. I thought I'd walked into the sucker punch of all sucker punches there. I hadn't seen it coming all night, and then I just thought you were going to deliver that jab, but you didn't.
I've come to the conclusion that it's too good for us. Too good for us.
Mike the Fisherman, can you please let Jackson go in the January window? I feel like Mike's been saying that for the last 3 windows. I
didn't know that Mike didn't like Jackson. I wish he'd have said.
Keeps it quiet. Keeps it really quiet. He wants to play 2 up front, this Mike. And then when he's asked on the show,
one of our 2 strikers.
Who do you want to play up front with Ladapo? He just, shit. Burgess. Rob Holmes. Twine has had a long-term injury at Burnley and now coming back to fitness. No chance him coming in January. So Oxford, full house at the weekend, or near enough a full house at the weekend. A few tickets still remaining. I'll ask you both the same question. You can answer it in one word or more if you want. But is it a must-win, George?
No, we don't have must-wins at this point in the season, but we bloody well ought to win.
Okay. Tux?
Yeah, I agree with George. I don't think it's a must-win game as such yet. I think we're entering a very busy period of fixtures coming up now. So, We need to get these points on the board because, Sheffield Wednesday and Plymouth will certainly be going for it. So we just need to hit some form now. And hopefully these players coming in that are planned, hopefully, will help that.
Absolutely. Okay. Right. So you both, it's a busy period. Christmas is a period where a lot of things change very quickly and teams go on a run, they fall off. Let's hope we're not one of the teams that falls off. So I asked you both to put together your 1 to 11s for Boxing Day. I'll let you go first, George. Here is your 1 to 11. You mentioned earlier how difficult it can be when I ask you to do this. But here's your 11. What have you gone for and why? Talk me through it. You got Humphreys with Morsey there. No Evans?
Yeah. No, and I think so. There's two question marks in there. One is Humphreys or Evans, purely because, as Tuck said earlier, I think he's played a lot of football, so he's probably due. That's not any kind of slight on Evans. We talked about. I've made amends with Evans a long time ago when he was still playing. He's certainly been on form this season, and not keeping him out for any reason other than I like Humphreys. As I say, I didn't see much of him on Saturday, but he's looked really bright. He looks great. So unless he's knackered, I wouldn't necessarily take him out of that midfield at the moment. And the other one is Edmondson. If Luke is fit again, then I think he may come back in. But yeah, I think, to be honest with you, it's sort of almost a team that kind of just, apart from the front or the sort of two in the number 10 role, they're the only ones that I think you could kind of name a few players that might play, but it's pretty standard at the moment, isn't it? We're so injury hit at the minute.
When you look at that 11, and if you did the old Football Manager, that's my 11, where would I want to improve it? For me, it would be that player behind the striker. I've gone on record. It's an impact position. I don't think Aluka offers the impact stats that suggest he makes that type of impact. You can argue to the cows home whether he does or he doesn't. And also Humphreys, really, out of the 11, outside the striker, that's the only two sort of areas I would be looking to strengthen, because I think that's our weakest areas.
Yeah, I think so. I think strength in depth at centre back is the only other thing, but that's not necessarily a problem week to week in a starting 11. I think, we've been saying it since, forever it feels like, but certainly since the summer, which is that we just don't quite look as good as we could, as clinical as we should be up front in that front three.
Absolutely. All right, swap you around. Let's go to Tux's 11. It's a little bit similar, if not completely similar, except really one name. You are bringing the Welsh Perlo back into the team. Tux, talk us through it.
Yeah, so I think Evans, I'd probably bring back in because you're looking at Humphreys, who's played quite a lot of football recently because Evans has been out injured. I'd be bringing him back, certainly. I think he just offers us that kind of that ability to, find a pass a little bit. He obviously gives that foil to Morsey to allow him to go forward. So I would be bringing him back. I don't think he'll play the whole game. I think it'll be one of these things where he'll probably play the hour and then Humphreys will come on. So I'd start him based on that. And then the rest of it, I think Edmondson, was the only change from George's team.
Correct.
I think he had KVY in. So I thought KVY as well, just because I think Donessian, whether he's injured, but I just think he's a little bit off form at the moment. So I would sort of just give him a rest. So KVY would bring back in. Thought he did okay at Wycombe on Saturday, but I feel like George Edmondson, I've not seen these three together just yet. So I'd like to see them three together. I think be quite a solid three centre halves really, and that would really allow Burns and Davis to push forward as well. Then, so that'd be my team really. And I know there's a lot of fans out there that sort of question Aluko's contribution, if you like, but I think he played well in Peterborough. But yeah, I think it is the numbers, and a lot of people will look at that, and I think he could do better there. But I think he does offer us something different, which McKenna's already alluded to as well. But yeah, that's my thing.
I am surprised we've not seen those that back three together, to be fair. Like when I sat here in the summer, I said the back 3 or 4 that starts the season won't be the one that ends it. This was the back 3 I kind of was edging towards in my mind in terms of that's how I see it ending up. Davis and Burns as your fullbacks or wing backs. Those three solid 1v1 great tacklers, good in the air, good. Maybe not Burgess as such, but certainly Wolfenden and Edmondson, good with the ball at their feet. Play the one either play those two either side of Burgess, and you've got a really nice back three there. So I'm really surprised we've not seen it yet, but this is the week, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully, I mean, I must admit, I'd probably see KVY starting over an Edmondson in that position, just because I think McKenna wants someone who can, go forward as a bit more athletic, if you like, a bit more pacey potentially. But yeah, I think those three as a kind of partnership, if you like, would be quite good. I'd like to see it. Yeah,
I agree. And we play a hybrid of a 3 and a 4, don't we? Which is why, as you were just saying about KVY, why I think McKenna likes the KVY or the Nation. It's that ability to maybe start with a 4 blue counters on the whiteboard, but in the middle of the game, at 27 minutes when you need to, you switch to a 3, and then in the 74th minute you go back to a 4. It's that ability to do so many different things without having to make wholesale changes or play an El Miz at right wing back, as we did at some points at the back end of last year. It's that ability, isn't it, which is where a KVY does, I guess.
Well, I think it's those front three are going to be important as well, because as I said earlier, that the likes of Davis or Burns that are having their paths blocked in terms of having that kind of overlapping run, being the fullbacks, which is essentially our wingers really. But if you're sticking them as a winger and then someone in front of Davis, he's not going to have as much in terms of going forward. It's just not going to happen because his path has always been blocked. So I think the front three is key there as well. And Aluko and Chaplin aren't players that want to stick out wide; they always want to come in. So I think that sort of suits this team as well.
Gov, make sure you get the cable moving on. I will do CJ. He's working over Christmas and Boxing Day. Don't worry, CJ. We've got you covered here on Talking Town. Join us for obviously the match day ticket on Boxing Day. You can be at the game without being at the game, so you can watch us freezing cold while you're earning money and warm. So win-win. We don't play through the back, says Mike. Max Fax with Harness returning to fitness and Burns is from the sideline on the slide. Could MH play on the right wing, more natural position? Maybe. There we go. Right. We have got a ticket giveaway, Cruncher's ticket to give away. So let's just quickly do that now. 17 names, I believe, were entered. I don't know who is associated with the numbers. I've just put 17 numbers in, shuffled them, and now I've clicked it. And Cruncher will get in touch with the person whose tickets they are. So it is number 17. So, no, 15. Oh, right at the end there, look. A little movement. Right, number 15 it is. You are today's ticket giveaway prize recipient. Congratulations. Cruncher will get in touch with you. Number 15. You can become a part of the bumper crowd at Portman Road on Boxing Day. But we're done for Christmas. I'm signing off. This is like leaving work before Christmas, About 101 unread emails. It's like, I'm out of here. It's beer time. But last question, I guess, is score predictions for Boxing Day, George.
3-1 Town.
3-1 Town. Mr. Tuxford.
1-1.
I mean, I've got 0-0 in my mind, so you're doing. At least I've seen a goal, I suppose, for getting down there. But don't forget, I think there's some sort of strike going on Boxing Day. So if you are travelling by public transport normally, do check it. But yeah, looking forward to seeing you all at Portman Road. Enjoy your Christmas. Have a fantastic and a wonderfully merry Christmas. Enjoy time with your friends and your family. But until the 26th, bye. You make me smile when I think of you. If I get down low and I get blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. I woke up all soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you.